Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. In today's tropical weather outlook and discussion, we're going to give you the very latest detailed information on what is ahead for the tropics over the next couple of weeks as we are tracking a train of tropical waves that are moving off of Africa. The question will be, will these develop into tropical depression or tropical storms through the middle to the end of August? Find out more in today's video. Now, if you haven't been here before and you do find these tropical weather outlook and discussions very detailed, informative, helpful, and life-saving, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, slap that bell notification icon to get all of my daily tropical weather updates. Also, hit that like button and share this video with your family and friends on social media, because if we do get a tropical storm or hurricane impacting any land areas within 24 to 36 hours, we will be doing round-the-clock live streaming coverage here on the YouTube channel. Now, with that being said, here's a look at the latest GOES 19 True Color Visible Satellite Imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. There's a link in the description below this video. And when you take a look at the imagery very closely, we have a very healthy looking tropical wave that is roughly located about 40 degrees west in longitude by about 15 degrees north in latitude. And this is generally headed in the west-northwesterly direction at about 15 to 20 miles per hour. Now, while it does look a little impressive on satellite, there is a lot of dry, dusty Saharan air that is getting involved with this, and you can tell by looking at the stratocumulus cloud cover to the north of the system, indicating that there's a lot of dry, stable, sinking air that is being ingested into this tropical wave out of the northwesterly direction and curving all the way around on the southern side, allowing this wave to not develop very healthy convection whatsoever like it was yesterday. There's another tropical wave that we will need to watch, however, down the road behind this frontal type wave that is in the central MDR, where it may acquire better opportunity for development. So with that being said, let's take a look now at our global computer models as far as the chances of tropical development go over the next couple of weeks, all the way through the middle of August. Traditionally, it is going to be a rapid increase in tropical activity in climatological terms. So right now, we are basically right where we should be for this time of the year as far as tropical activity in the Atlantic not being very active. But once we go into late August, that's when we expect things to really get going. So looking at the 850 millibar low-level vorticity plot here from tropicaltidbits.com, the darker color shading here in red and orange colors indicate stronger vorticity, tighter spin versus yellow colors. And then, of course, your wind barbs here indicate which way the wind is blowing from and how strong it is. So you can see where our ridge of high pressure actually is right up here in the subtropical Atlantic, with flow generally in this clockwork. So we have a ridge to the north, we have this area of disturbed weather to the south, and because of this, we're not going to see any tropical development. That high is just too strong right now for this time of the year for what it's worth, and we have really high sea level pressure anomalies in the deep tropics. So putting this into motion here, you can see that wave is not going to get much attention over the next 3 days. This is through Saturday morning on the 2nd of August. There is your tropical wave right here in the southwestern Atlantic, and you can just barely make it out here. There's a little bit of a wave pocket, though, as you can tell by the height lines here. See how they're kind of a smiley or a backwards smiley face. We have another little height line kind of being bent back. So there is definitely a trough axis in here in the northeastern portion of the Caribbean into the southwestern Atlantic. But it's just not in a very conducive environment for where it can actually generate and sustain convection where we get otherwise a tropical depression or a storm. So that's the case with that wave, and it's just going to get strung apart. It's just not going to form. There are no model members on this anymore. So it's a wave of no concern whatsoever over the next 7 days. So through Wednesday on the 6th of August, it looks rather quiet out there. Again, it's like these waves try to develop, and then as we get closer, they back off. And that's what we've been seeing lately, is that stability seems to be winning things initially than what models thought just 4 or 5 days ago. Here's another tropical wave here. This is more broader, and then that's that second wave that we will need to watch. Models are going back and forth on it as it does approach the Caribbean. And just for reference, how uncertain that wave actually is in today's forecast is if we take a look at the 0Z run last night, we had potentially a weak tropical depression here with winds of about 30 miles per hour. If we look at the previous run from 24 hours ago, or from Tuesday morning, you can see where the wave was. And if we go even further back to that, from about a day and a half ago, there was the tropical wave. And this is what caused a lot of concern to a lot of people on social media that, oh my goodness, we have an African wave train of tropical storms or hurricanes that are going to form. Not so much in this model. Like, where did they go, right? And that is why we don't jump to conclusions right away. And I average things out before I make the call and say, this is the wave that we really need to watch. Looks like in today's forecast package, things have changed quite notably in the last day and a half. Now, putting this into further motion all the way out to Thursday morning on the 14th of August, there is a tropical wave here, and there's another broader tropical wave here. But the problem with this is, the broader these waves actually are, they're going to dig down even more drier air from higher latitudes. And so, in other words, this background state is just not favorable through the 14th of August, and that's to be expected. We don't expect activity to really get going until about the 20th of August. So that back half of August typically ends up being a lot more busier on average than the first half of August. So this is pretty much playing as it's supposed to here in terms of climatology. The GFS model has been very consistently showing no tropical development at all, and I will show you that. There's that tropical wave. The GFS has a little bit better handle on it, that it's actually existing a little bit more better than what previous models showed. We go back just a few model runs ago, the wave pocket was really not organized. It seems to be aligned a little bit more with the European model. Doesn't make consistency or confidence higher that there will be a tropical depression, but confidence is rather high now that there will be a tropical wave that produces some showers and some thunderstorms in the northeastern Caribbean. And as we go forward here in time, all the way out to 10 days and beyond 10 days, there is just nothing. There is just nothing on the table that gets my attention. And if we look at prior model runs, you can see no changes. And if that's not enough, we could even go all the way back for several model runs, and there's just nothing other than a tropical wave that tries to come off of Africa. But we can say the same thing over and time again that, oh, this is going to develop, David. You watch. The MJO is favorable. I'll explain that here in just a second on what that means in the first place. But for the time being, all the way through the 14th and the 15th of August, it looks like things should remain quiet in the Atlantic. So now, what about the environmental forecast with these tropical waves? Why are we not going to see any tropical development out of this over the next 7 to 10 days? Well, you can blame it all on the dry, dusty Saharan air and really dry air coming from higher latitudes due to anticyclonic wave-breaking activity in the central tropical Atlantic and the subtropics as well, causing a lot of PVU activity, PVU streamers, lots of deep layer vertical wind shear coming in out of the westerly direction, and that is just not conducive for any development as it seems as healthy as these waves could be, and they generate a lot of thunderstorms, just a lot of sinking air, just not really habitable for any storm formation. So now, with that being said, going forward here in time, you can see all the brown colors, which indicate lots of deep layer dry air in the atmosphere. This is not just right above the surface, but this is all the way up to where jet planes fly at about 35,000 feet. And that's where the air is really dry. And look at just how dry this is. This is a little past 5 days out through Tuesday morning on August the 5th. I mean, this is the driest I have ever seen the atmosphere in the deep tropics in a long time. And because of that, we have a strong Bermuda high and Azores high that will increase our trade winds. I mean, this is really, really volatile for these waves to thrive within. Now, beyond that, the pattern should hopefully change, but even so, we say the pattern will hopefully change doesn't mean it will actually change. There's still a lot of dry air existing here to the north of these tropical waves, and it's going to take a while. Probably not until at least late August, perhaps at this point, is my earliest estimate that we do get some tropical development. I know you guys are probably laughing at me saying, you keep pushing things back, you keep pushing things back. Well, things look favorable, then they don't look favorable. All right, and we saw this already on our models. Like, I thought we were going to get somewhere on this, like maybe mid-August could be quite busy. Looks like might think twice about that for right now because of what we're seeing now. Things could change in a day. Maybe we'll see more tropical waves that develop into tropical storms on the 15th or the 16th of August. But at this point, I don't know. It just looks really, really uncertain at this time. There's a lot of low confidence in anything forming off of Africa for the time being, and homegrown systems may be the only way out of this for the season. So looking at the deep layer vertical wind shear, red colors indicate lots of vertical wind shear. Lighter colors like light blues, dark blues indicate lighter vertical wind shear in the atmosphere. And of course, this is the problem. Look at all this vertical wind shear over the eastern Atlantic. That's exactly why we are not seeing any development. Lots of dry air coming from higher latitudes. That's your problem. And this is going to stay with us for a while. You can see all the way for the next 5 days, lots of anticyclonic wave breaking activity. You can see a PVU streamer right here, well outlined on the vertical wind shear plot. This is just not going to do us well in terms of favoring tropical activity. But the pattern does begin to change once we go into the 8th and the 9th of August. It does appear things should change. But then guess what? Later on in the time frame, by about the 14th and the 15th, another anticyclonic wave breaking event happens, potentially here, sending this PVU streamer really, really far south here, as you can see on the shear plot analysis from the European model for the 14th of August. Now, of course, this is very far out. This is going to change, I am very sure. But man, over the last couple of days, we went from maybe seeing favorable background environment conditions to something that's a little bit more unfavorable right now. And fortunately, that's good news for a lot of people that are tired, that don't like hurricanes or tropical storms, as myself and my other friends here that track this along with me. They're bored. They're like, man, we need to track the tropics. We need to get some action going. But honestly, I'm fine with not tracking a hurricane or tropical storm versus what we did last year with Beryl. That was pretty stressful situation. So honestly, I'm happy about this. Let the calm stretch even further until maybe September. We will see how dead this hurricane season will end up being or how active it will once we end out the season. But right now, boy, the first half of August does not look very optimal for development as what I can see. Sea level pressure anomalies, you can tell this has been the big story. Lots of higher than normal pressure out here in the deep tropics and the subtropics of the Atlantic. That is why we're seeing no development, because higher pressure means what? Air is sinking and it's warming, and that's going to continue. Like, this is ridiculous. Down here in the subtropics, deep tropics, 1020 millibars. That's insanely high when it comes to surface pressures. That's undescribably high for this time of the year for that area. And then it still remains that way all the way through the next 7 days. Higher than normal sea level pressure. The Bermuda high is going to remain stronger than it should be, and that's the problem. That's a huge issue here with the tropics. But beyond that, lower pressure does try to develop out here in the deep tropics, and it's a matter of time. Will we get any development with these tropical waves off of Africa then? And it does look like at the moment we will possibly see some tropical development, but right now, very low confidence, less than 1% of that occurring for the time being. But again, things could change in a blink of an eye. Now, when we take a look at the latest ensembles from the European model, you can see the signal today versus yesterday's video is a lot weaker. There are still some members that do indicate a weak tropical depression here, but the signal is definitely lower than yesterday. Still a bit of a signal over here off the eastern seaboard that there could be some tropical mischief going on thanks to a decaying cold frontal boundary that stalls out here where we might get a couple of spin-ups of activity, some near homegrown systems, but any storm that does develop here along the frontal future, the way it's oriented, will likely move out to the northeast and away from land areas, so there won't be any threats to any land areas for this given time for the mid-Atlantic of the United States, which is great news to hear. Looking at the GEFS ensemble, even a lesser signal out here in the deep tropics and even over here in the subtropical Atlantic off the eastern seaboard as well as the northeast. The signal here is very washed out, which means there is very little confidence of anything forming in the next 10 days. So with that being said, looking at the latest National Hurricane Center forecast here over the next 7 days calls for no tropical activity in the next 7 days. I bet you, me and Nate and Easy are loving this, the ones that are going to be helping me this hurricane season for all night live coverage when it comes to the tropics. If we do get any significant landfalls, we'll see about that. But I'm ready to go for the season, what gets thrown at me like a softball or baseball. But right now, looking nice and quiet over the next 7 days versus, I want to briefly show you all this, the East Pacific, Central Pacific, not so much. We have what is left with Tropical Storm Iona, 65-mile-an-hour winds. Kelly is down to a 35-mile-an-hour remnants of Kelly, so it's no longer a tropical depression. We have another area to watch here, and then just, boy, lots of activity right now still ongoing here in the Central Pacific, but you all are probably wondering when in the heck will it get active in the Atlantic? And therefore, let's take a look now at our MJO forecast. So here's a look at the MJO forecast. Here is the phase diagram that I like to show in these videos. That's why Nate loves me so much when it comes to making these YouTube videos. So as we take a look here at our phase diagram, the MJO right now is in phase 7, a low frequency interseasonal signal continues. The MJO looks like it is going to briefly go into the unit of circle where there is no MJO activity for at least a few days. And then the MJO, someone called me, sorry about that. The MJO will go into phase 8, phase 1, phase 2, by the time we go into early August, and then looks like it is going to go back into the null phase. And this has been a huge problem. Lots of destructive wave interference out here in phase 2 and 3 due to a negative oceanic Indian dipole that has really manifested itself over Western India with well below average sea surface temperatures, helping to increase the subsidence in that area and leading to a less coherent MJO activity signal in that maritime continent. So it's going to be worth watching to see what happens over here once the MJO gets into phase 2 or 3, or if it does at all. The GFS has a different extrapolation on this. We look at it here. You can see, of course, null phase here, and then it gets into phase 2 with a more higher amplitude wave 1 symmetry signal by the time we go into the middle of August. But interestingly enough, this does not correspond to any tropical activity in the Atlantic as what I can see on the deterministic forecast models. So now when we take a look here at our European EPS control 200 millibar velocity potential anomaly, this is an overview of what may happen in the state of the tropics where we see any favorable conditions. So therefore, while we do have some sinking pockets here, this is more than likely some disorganization with the ongoing large frequency interseasonal signal that is transpiring right now across the Atlantic. This is going to get into Africa and eventually into the maritime continent. But you could also see right here, there is some de-amplification with the interseasonal base state of the MJO once we go into the early to the middle of August, where we have two distinct areas of rising motion. This is actually destructive wave interference, and this is what is throwing us backwards with any activity that may develop. We want a very coherent signal here where we want a lot of the rising motion roughly in this box. So I'm going to make a nice good box. Right in here is where we want things. So things are a little bit disheveled right now, and it's going to be worth watching to see if this becomes more coherent as we go into early August. Things could flip like a dime very quickly, but right now, while there is a lot of rising motion forecasted over Africa, there will be some competing factors that prevent such a busy period here due to dry air, stable air coming from higher latitudes, anticyclonic wave breaking event still going on in the northern subtropical Atlantic. Now, there's a lot of sinking motion that does occur over the East Pacific and portions of the Atlantic, but because of the lag minting of the fast pace of the MJO interseasonal signal, this is not going to matter a whole lot for the Atlantic right away. Now, looking beyond the 15-day forecast, now looking at the 46-day forecast, you can see here is a look at the MJO. This did not update at all since yesterday, so we're going to briefly look at this. So you can see a lot of rising motion still continues over phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is ideally favorable for the Atlantic. It is going to be worth watching, though, to see if this actually kickstarts the process. If anything, more likely beyond mid-August is where I'm thinking now the tropics will finally wake up. I shouldn't say finally in a good way here, but finally in a way that you will need to probably get prepared for anything that does develop out there in the MDR or any homegrown activity. Now, with that being said, if you haven't been here before and you do find these tropical weather outlook and discussions very helpful, detailed, informative, and life-saving, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. It really means a lot to me. Hit that bell notification icon to get all of my daily tropical weather updates here on the YouTube channel. I do upload every day in the afternoon at around 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That would be 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So again, if you have not subscribed yet and you are new and you haven't been here before, subscribe, share, like, and also leave a comment in the section below this video, and also check out our merchandise with the store tab on the home screen of this YouTube channel. But otherwise, thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with you more tomorrow afternoon with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion.